Hello again, and welcome to the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends Podcast. Tom Calhoun here to shine a light on the stories of those instrumental in blues history. The Blues Legends Podcast is presented by Sarah Honda, O'Fallon, Illinois. Check out their 618 Sarah Bucks offer at sarahhondaofallon.com. A participating sponsor, the Gateway Grizzlies. Lots of attractive promotions coming up in the next few weeks. Visit gatewaygrizzlies.com for details. On this episode, it's a visit with our legendary and current organist, Jeremy Boyer. Jeremy is worth an episode on his own, but we dive into the history of the men who have graced the team with their talents at the keyboard through the decades. We touch on all of them as we go back to the beginnings of the franchise and move through the years of blues game music presentation. It's a musical stroll down memory lane coming your way as Jeremy gets us started from his keyboard in 60 seconds.
When it's time to find your next car, what's changed in your life? What's driving you to start the process? What are you really looking for? These are the questions we're asking at Sarah Honda. We believe in real communication, real problem solving, and trustworthy long-term relationships with our customers. We're part of your community, and we want you to be part of ours. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything. You've got a lot going on in life, and you depend on your car to get you to places you need to be. So when it's time for maintenance or repair, we know you need it done fast and done right. Convenience and quality customer service with team members you can trust. That's what you're looking for. We'll get you safely back on the road and back to your busy life. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything.
Go. As you can tell, we are chatting on this episode of the Blues Hockey Legends Podcast with our great organist, Jeremy Boyer. Jeremy, how you doing?
Great, Tom. How you doing?
Good to see you in the off season for a change.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks for first of all joining us on the podcast. And we before we get too far into this, I want to make sure everybody knows we're going to talk about not only Jeremy but all the history of our blues organists through the years, and we'll touch on all of them here in just a bit. But first, I want to let people get to know Jeremy Boyer a little bit better. And I read that you are a Potosi, Missouri guy. Tell us a little bit about your early life, your family background, and growing up in Potosi.
Well, I grew up in Potosi, born and raised. It's about an hour south of St. Louis. So for those who are unfamiliar, if you know where Tesson Ferry is on 270, you just hit that. You just keep on going straight out into the country and out here into God's country, and that's where you're at. And nice town, nice community. Grew up here. My mom was big into musician, and my dad was big into music, and kind of grew out of that.
Brothers, sisters, what was your rest of your family like?
Yeah, I have one brother. He lives in St. Peter's, and we were in choir together, and he did band, and we all did sports together growing up, and we grew up Blues fans and Cardinals fans.
And then off to Southeast Missouri State University, right?
Yeah, SEMO alum, and actually went there for voice. A lot of people think I went to study organ. I actually just played organ for fun, but studied voice there, got a music degree from Southeast, and great school.
When did you get the idea to sit in front of a keyboard? How young were you, I guess, when that hit you?
I was 12 years old, I guess, and I had started, I was in like the select choir in school, and I was in beginning band, and I learned how to read music, and my mom had an organ, a little bit smaller than this at the house, and it had the letter names, on the above the keys, and because I knew how to read music, I could kind of apply that to the keyboard, and I started out kind of teaching myself, and like I said, my mom was a musician when she was younger, and she could play organ a little bit. She didn't really play much after I was born, but she she helped me a little bit for the most part, though. It was just, I had that drive, and it was something I was interested in. I loved doing it. So I come in and played every day, maybe to the chagrin of my parents, but, you know, woodshed moment and got to kind of go in there and just work on things.
Yeah, it says in your Wikipedia profile that you were self-taught. That blows my mind. As somebody who played music when I was a kid, I really had to have a lot of coaching, a lot of understanding of sheet music. Were you playing pretty well by yourself without lessons and so forth?
I think within the first year, I was playing at masses at my home parish. Now, that wasn't like cathedral level or anything, but I was able to play enough that I could play for a mass at church by myself at within a year. And from there, it was just constantly wanting to play, and it was something I loved to do, and I was doing it all the time. And just like with anything, the more you practice, the better you get. And I practiced and played all the time, and I was playing every day, and I still do every day. So just
Yeah.
something to kind of get better at.
Well, you're a church organist too. We should mention that. Where do you do that kind of work?
I play organ at St. Francis of Assisi. I'm their music director, and that's my full-time job. So go in there, and most of the time, if I'm not at a Blues game or a Cardinals game, I'm there playing the organ for masses and school masses or weddings or funerals or you name it, and I'm there pretty often. So they're on
Yep.
Telegraph Road, there off of 255 in South County.
Hmm. A lot of times you're playing a wedding or something, and you have to hurry up to get to a blues game. I know that.
Yeah, especially those 6 p.m. starts. You have a 4 o'clock mass. It's like get out and be the first person out of the parking lot.
Right. Well, that's a little background on Jeremy. Let's talk a little bit about the blues organist history a bit. When the blues got started back in '67, the first organist and one that really set the tone, I think, for the history of blues organists is Norm Kramer. He played the organ for the blues games from 67 through 77. He took a little break. I got a quote from his daughter, Kim Kramer Conway, offline, and she said he played from 67 through the end of the 72-73 season, and then was invited back halfway through the 74-75 season. Not sure who would have filled that gap there, but he played until the end of the 60s or 76-77 series. So Norm really set the tone. He wore a silver jacket while he was playing for blues games. Might have been an inspiration for Jeremy Boyer, who's got that spangly jacket going these days, right at the games.
Yeah, and through Kim, his daughter, I got to meet Norm a few years back before he had passed away, and he was kind of in the later stages of dementia. He still had enough knowledge and wherewithal that we could hold some conversations, and I got to pick his brain a little bit and talk shop, which was just so cool for me. I loved that. That was such an awesome moment, having lunch with him and getting to share stories about playing for the same organization. And I learned a lot through Kim and through Dawn, her sister, and of course blues fans. Last season, I saw a Frank St. Marseille jersey on the concourse, and of course that ties in with our history and with Norm Kramer and the beginning of the goal song when the Saints go marching in or when the Blues go marching in. Um, but yeah, Norm set the standard for all of us, I think, and he was known throughout the league. Doc Emmerich, I remember told a funny story about Norm Kramer, and he had said that when they had the All Star game at the arena, uh, Bill Wirtz, the owner of the Blackhawks, didn't think it was fair that we used the St. Louis organists for the All Star game, even though it was in St. Louis.
Right.
He decided to have his organist come, the Blackhawks organist come, and they change off. So Norm played for part of the game, and then whenever the Blackhawks organist came in, he played a version of St. Louis blues, but he was purposefully like making it kind of hitting wrong notes on it to kind of make it sound bad. And so that was his kind of jab at St. Louis. But yeah, Norm was a great musician and for sure the foundation of the organ music in St. Louis blues franchise history.
Yeah, I did have that story about the 1970 All-Star game queued up here a little bit. And
Yeah.
supposedly, from what I can read, Claude Ruel, who was the coach of the East Division All-Stars, was reported by local media as being upset that Norm would give an advantage to the Western Conference All-Stars if he was playing the organ at the games. And Ruel said, I was hardly in the hotel lobby when some writers started asking questions, not about my all-star lineup, but about the organist. I couldn't figure out what they were talking about. I asked them, what do I care about the organist? He can't skate. But so he was kind of lost in the whole deal there. But you're right. Bill Wirtz flew in Al Melgard, the organist at Chicago Stadium, to split playing time with Norm on that 1970 All-Star game. That's how big a deal Norm was back in those days.
And you got to think too, it's a different time. Back then, there was no pre-recorded music whatsoever. So
Right.
if the organ wasn't playing, there was nothing. There was no music.
Hmm.
So I could see how it could be an advantage, and especially with Norm there behind the keys, and rooting for one side or the other. Of course, then it was, I guess, was it East and West? I
Yeah.
guess for the All Star game. So to give one side such a strong advantage. Now, if you play in an All Star game, and I got the opportunity and the honor to play for the 2020 All Star game here in St. Louis, it was a totally different format, and we had players maybe on different teams from the Blues playing
Right.
against one another. So it was different. There really wasn't that, our team versus your team kind of thing like it was back then.
Yeah, and when I had Scotty Bowman on the podcast back earlier this year, he told the story about how Norm went in to negotiate a new contract with Sid Solomon Jr., one of the team owners at the time, and he wanted $10,000 a year instead of the $35 a game, which he had been paid up to that point. And Solomon said, no, we can't afford that kind of money, Norm, even though you got a lot of notoriety from playing for us. So Norm pulls out the newspaper, which says, you got some players who are being paid $20,000. You were quoted in the newspaper as saying, I'm worth half a goal a game, which means he was a 20-goal scorer in effect for the season, and they don't even score 10 goals a season. Some of your players, so why couldn't I make half of what they make? And I don't know that he won that negotiation, but it was an interesting story that Scotty told.
I think that may have led to that break in the timeline that you had mentioned earlier between 74 and 77. And I feel like maybe Ernie had played a little bit in that time too before he did it full time. But yeah, then he obviously, I guess, came back for a little while, and they mended fences.
Yeah. If you do a little Norm Kramer research online, those of you listening to this, you will find a lot of stuff about some of the things that he was involved with back in the day and how flamboyant he was and how he really kind of set the tone in St. Louis for the organ history that we have, which includes our next subject, Ernie Hayes, who was a Jeremy Boyer mentor. Ernie played from 1977 to 2007, and he had a big personality too. He liked his off-color jokes, and he liked a lot of stuff that people remember him by. But he was a great player. A lot of folks remember him from Cardinal games, but he was the blues guy for 30 years as well.
Yeah, actually, to change that timeline just a little bit, he only played till the end of the arena, so it had been through '93 or '94. I don't think
Okay.
he ever played in the new building, but
I don't know where I got 2007, but that's where anyway, that's what I had. So you could correct it. Go right ahead.
that's all right. Yeah, he played. I think close to 20 years between like I said, maybe that little bit of time between Norm's stints, and then afterwards until the end of the arena in '93 or '94, and then I think he went to strictly baseball at that point.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I studied with Ernie. That was maybe, I ended up taking formal lessons. I taught myself as a kid and a teenager. When I got to college, I did take some formal lessons. Ryan Hassel, who was a college professor, taught me organ at college, and then Ernie Hayes as well. And I would drive from Cape Girardeau to Maryland Heights to his studio every week to study with Ernie, and I learned a lot about life. I learned a lot about music. I learned a lot of jokes, and a lot about the business too. And just doing it every day and what it takes, and both on the keys and away from the keys. And he was a great mentor to me, and someone who I really looked up to, and had a lot of admiration for.
Yeah, and Ernie was the guy who was playing the organ when I started doing the PA announcing back in 1987. And I tell this story to people who may not believe it, but like you said earlier, there was no video element to the production in those days. There was the organist and there was the PA guy, and that was pretty much it. And when I got to games back in those days in 87, early, late 80s, I would be handed a stack of 3x5 cards and told, here you go, Tom, try to get these all read sometime during the game, promoting upcoming games and things like that. So that was the instruction I had. There was, no video element, like I said, to worry about. I had a button on the counter in front of me that I would push that would signal Ernie, okay, next time out in the game, don't play anything because I got this card to read. And, we would talk back and forth, between periods and such on the phone a little bit, but that was how sophisticated it was back in those days. Push a button, don't play, Ernie, because I got something to read. But he was excellent and always fun to be around.
Yeah, and he had told me too that even at the arena before they had the goal horn, that he had the crank siren whenever they would score a goal, and he'd wind that sucker up and the siren would blow before he started playing when the Saints go marching in or Blues go marching in after goals as well. So he was doing double duty doing that as well.
There you go. Yeah, and yeah, not sophisticated whatsoever, but we've come a long way since. So I guess my timeline is adjusted a little bit then, based on what you told me earlier. And I guess after Ernie then gave it up at the end of the arena existence, I guess Tom Doctor came along at that time because that would fill the gap that I have between the end of Ernie playing and you starting up in '08, right?
Yeah, so yeah, Arnie played until the end of the arena. Tom Doctor had taken over at the new Enterprise Kiel Center,
Hmm.
and he was the one who helped. He was a Rogers dealer, which is the brand of organ that we have at the Enterprise Center, and he was the one who put that organ in at Enterprise Center because that's the kind of organ that he sold for a living.
Hmm.
And so he put it in. We talked about that a little bit. I always felt like they put it in. It has like a pipe organ sound to it. It's a church organ,
Yeah.
literally a church organ. And I thought they always tried to replicate the Barton organ at Chicago Stadium, which was kind of like the organ that everybody kind of looked to. But he
Right.
said it was just because he worked at Rogers and that's why he sold, so that's what they put in there.
Yeah.
It's the same organ we use today. And everybody talks about the older organs from the arena, but they used 4 or 5 or 6 different models at the arena. There wasn't just an organ. I know that I've seen videos of Norm playing a Hammond organ in the early days. Ernie had a Techniques organ at one time, and a Yamaha organ at one time, and a Baldwin organ. But at Enterprise Center, when Tom Doctor came along, he put in the Rogers, and that's the same organ we've had since the building opened in 1994, 95.
Mm.
And he was the organist from, I think, that year and maybe the next year. I think he did 2 years before Jordy Kroger came along and did after that. So he would have been
Oh, I forgot all about Jordy. Yeah.
that gap between Tom and I, and then I started in '07, '08.
Okay. So yeah, that fills the hole there that I didn't have in my notes. Good for you, Jeremy. Thanks for doing that.
No problem.
I do have a Tom Doctor short story. Tom was a child prodigy too. He was really an outstanding organist at a very early age. There was a guy named Paul Schutte, and when I did a radio show on WIBV radio back in the oh gosh, that goes back to the late '70s maybe, and we did a radio show, a live show called the Downtown Club. We would take our remote equipment out, and we'd have an organist as part of the show. And Paul Schutte ran the Ludwig Music House on East Main Street in Belleville, and he would play. But occasionally he would invite Tom Doctor to come in and be the guest organist on the show. And Tom might have been 12 or 13 years old at the time, and he was very advanced at an early age. So that's my story. Tom got an early start and showed his talent before coming to the blues. So, Jordy, what can you tell us about him?
So Jordy was, my immediate predecessor, and whenever I came in, he was very hospitable to me, and we've met in talked, and through Carl Middleman, the DJ who's been the DJ for a long time, are him and Carl are close friends, and we would sometimes hang out together in circles for different things. And so I've been fortunate to get to meet all of the organists who have played, for the blues at some time or another over the whole franchise, from Norm Kramer, and Ernie and Tom, and then Jordy. So I find that it's, as a history buff and as an organ lover, it's kind of cool to me to have got to meet all the other guys and got to talk shop with all of those guys and share stories and tell about when they were the organists, what did you do, and some of the behind the scenes stuff that happened, and just share, camaraderie and fun stories.
Get ready for the ultimate summer night, Deadhead and Bike Night with the Gateway Grizzlies. It's all going down Friday, August 16th at Arsenal BG Ballpark. Gates open at 5 p.m. and the party starts early with a pre-game concert at 5:30 featuring St. Louis legends Jake's Leg. First pitch is at 7:15, but the action doesn't stop there. Bring your ride for a mid-game bike cruise around the concourse. All bikes are welcome, and don't miss our Jersey Off the Back auction. Deadhead and Bike Night. Music, baseball, bikes, and more. Get your tickets now, and we'll see you August 16th.
Well, there you go. That's pretty much the history. We're pretty much up to the present. So I see you're at the keyboard today. So let's do a little rapid-fire response to some in-game happenings, all right? I'll tell you what they are. You react as quickly as you can on the organ. How's that work?
All right.
You ready for that?
Yep.
All right, turn around. Let's go. Here we go. Jeremy Boyer at the organ. All right. Blues take a penalty.
Man in the box.
Opposition takes a penalty. Great. Referees on ice conference.
I actually didn't even know the name of that. I just realized it had something to do with time. And
Yeah.
Carl, the DJ, was like, "That's the syncopated clock."
Syncopated clock. That's
Yeah.
right. How about opposition goal is scored?
Oh man, something like I do like the Dies Irae.
The Blues have a goal song, but you play before they play that, right? Blues score a goal.
I play the gold song, yeah. So
Is that the same thing you play when the Blues win, when the clock hits zero?
I play a kind of like a fancy version of St. Louis Blues. And
Yeah.
it goes, let's do down here.
Perfect. Well, we mentioned you're also a church organist. How about Kyrie?
Kyrie. Like, there's so many different versions of that, but like, I
Okay.
can do, like, for sure all kinds of different hymns and different things for sure.
Okay. All right. I just looked that up and I thought
Yeah, do some Gregorian chant.
maybe that would be the right thing to say at that time. Obviously, there's lots of different Kyries, right?
Yes.
So, where were you in 19 for Game 7 when we won the Cup? You were at a watch party, right?
I was at Enterprise Center and at the organ. And that was one of the cool things, at least for me, was cool, and it was also unexpected, I guess you could say, because we hadn't done that before. Both won a cup, nor had we opened the entire building up like that for a watch party. But going back, let's go back to the Western Conference Final a little bit.
Okay.
We played the Sharks, and we had the hand pass game, which was, I think, was a game 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And after that game, I had even tweeted out that night, like, we're winning the next 3 games, we're winning the series. Like, the team was fired up. you'd heard the post game comments from Coach Berube. We're like, we're putting this behind us. We're going to win. And I just had that gut feeling. Well, I think we played one game out there maybe, and we won that game. And so I had already scheduled because the middle part of that season, like we're not making the playoffs.
Right.
We were in last place. So I had scheduled like a weekend getaway for that part of May. And it timed out where it's like, okay, we played the game. I can go out of town for the weekend. No, we played at home. We won the game at home. I go out of town for the weekend, and it's a Friday night. We win the game. I go out of town. Saturday, I get a call from the Blues saying, hey, we're opening up the building on Sunday. We need you back here. So I had cut the weekend really short and came back. And then from, I think, Game 5 of the Western Conference Final through Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, I played every single game at Enterprise Center in front of a packed house, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was really something. I, of course, had no duties assigned for those things, but so I got to, watch it from the man cave and enjoy the whole experience through TV. So, I'm sure your place was probably a whole lot more fun than mine, but at the same time, I got to concentrate on the game and enjoy it that way.
You could probably had your beverage of choice when it got stressful, though, and kind of relax a little bit more. I had to be a little bit more on edge.
The possibility.
Yeah.
Say, Jeremy, when you play your version of a current hit like "Living on a Prayer" or "Gangsta's Paradise" or something like that, do you compose that yourself, or is there sheet music for that, or do you just figure it out on your own?
It just depends on the song, and like I said, I do read music, and if there's something that's super new, I'll use music for it sometimes, and I have a little iPad I'll throw up there, and I'll put something on there, and this might work well in a certain. I don't really shoehorn things in; it's got to fit the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other things, of course. I've played enough times. I know it. I don't need to live on the prayer. I could play, not a big deal. But some music too is like. And this is more of not really a hockey thing, but a music thing in general is like some of the stuff is really like disposable. I mean, and you could commit it to memory, but in like 3 weeks, it's going to be like, okay, this song's played out and nobody wants to hear it anymore. So it's like, sometimes it's not worth worrying about learning it all.
I have to build up Jeremy a little bit. You can turn your head if you want, Jeremy, but we're on the same headset during games, listening to Anna or whoever it is calling the show. Usually it's Anna these days. Sometimes Trevor Nickerson jumps in, but a lot of things happen on the go, and you got to react to them in a split second. And Anna might call for Jeremy, I need a vamp, or Jeremy, can you do this? And Jeremy's always right there, a half second later, doing whatever is appropriate at that moment. And that just is amazing talent to me, Jeremy, and congratulations on being able to do that.
Thank you. And it takes a lot of, it's, you gotta have to have a feel for the game. You gotta know how, what's the situation on the ice, how are the fans feeling, but you also gotta know the music and how those two really kind of come together and for that, match the moment.
Yeah. Let's talk about the future a little bit. So not all ballparks, not all arenas are using organists anymore. What do you think the future of organists as part of the sports experience is going to be, especially with the advent of AI and the opportunity that technology could take over that work?
I know AI is up and coming, but it's you just can't replace the feeling that you have from a live human person and the knowledge of the game and the music. But as far as like organists around the league, like really in the NHL, since I started, there's more organists now than there ever were. Not every arena has one, but there used to be fewer actually. But over the past, I'd say 10 years, more and more cities have brought in organists and began using organists once again where they hadn't in the past. Detroit's a great example of that. They went away. They didn't have organists for maybe the first 10 years that I played for the Blues. And then when they built the new arena, they put in this huge 4-manual organ, which a 4-manual is, so you have the 2 keyboards, that's a 2-manual. A 4-manual organ would have 4 sets of keyboards, a big, huge organ.
Wow.
And it's, something that's like I am out in the crowd where fans can walk by and see it.
Mhm.
It's live. The kids are at awe seeing that that's a real person there sitting there playing the organ, and
Right.
that's pretty cool. But there's a lot of other cities who have done that too, who have brought organists back and made it a big part of their game day experience.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I wasn't aware of that either, that, organists are making a comeback. That's great.
And we all communicate too. We have like a Facebook group where like not only NHL organists but Major League Baseball and a couple maybe NBA, and we all talk and we all communicate and share stories as well. And I just did a podcast a couple weeks ago with Frankie Valli's longtime music producer, Robbie Robinson, and he did an organist summit of sorts, and I shared a podcast with Paul Cartier, who is the Yankees and Islanders organist, and with Josh Cantor, who's the Boston Red Sox organist, and we kind of talked about that too, how we all can kind of share stories. And some of my closest friends are actually our rival teams. Uh, Crazy Kyle Hankins in Nashville is one of my best friends as far as other organists are concerned. But he's also a Cardinals fan because he grew up in Paducah, so
I'll be
uh,
darned.
we have that in common. But John Benedict, the Cubs organist, is another guy who I talk to a lot. Even though we have that Cardinals Cubs rivalry a little bit, we touch base quite often, and so that's fun.
Yeah, well, that's sort of like our PA announcer brotherhood that we have in the NHL. I get to talk to Paul McCann in Nashville and Jeff Kowarski, who goes by Jeff K in Dallas, and we share stories occasionally too. And how do you handle this situation? How do you pronounce that name? And that kind of stuff. So that's the magic of the internet. And speaking of the internet, you are something of an internet sensation. The Jeremy Boyer social media presence is pretty amazing. We talked before we started recording about how you and your daughters are putting TikToks together and all kinds of good stuff. You just enjoy that, or is that part of your income platform?
It's just something I like to do, especially with the girls. It's something that's big in their universe, and they're younger, and I've got three daughters. They're 12, 21, and 22, and the 21 and the 12-year-old love making TikToks together, and every once in a while, Dad will get in on the fun, and it's something we can bond over for sure. As far as the music, the fact that it is so popular speaks to the fact that this craft isn't going away. It's I think it's popular today as it had been in a long time, and I see those comments all the time, or the people are like, "Oh, I didn't know that was really a real person," but now they're like super into it. I had a fan last year who lived in Alabama and saw one of my TikToks, and this had been a couple years ago. I'd seen a TikTok, but she's like, "Well, I'm going to follow the Blues. This looks like a fun sport." And last year she came to a game from Alabama because she had watched one of my TikToks at one time, and
Yeah.
when she got there, she took this video and I shared it, but it's just her taking in the whole atmosphere once she gets to her seat, and she's like, I can't believe I'm actually here after having like fallen in love with this team and having watched from Alabama 2 years now. I'm here. I'm in the Enterprise Center and I'm getting ready to watch this for the first time, and she was in awe. And I thought that was the coolest thing. Oh, and I don't get like super emotional, but I got pretty emotional. That was very heartwarming to me, and it meant a lot to me, and something that I take a lot of pride in. But I always keep in mind every time I play is that someone's watching this for the first time, and this is their first game, and you want to make it special for everybody.
Yeah. Well, you did, and that's great. That's a great story. Thanks for that. So, Jeremy, if you're watching this on YouTube, you notice that Jeremy's in really great shape. There was a previous Jeremy, though, that wasn't in such great shape. And over the last, year and a half or so, you've pretty much transformed yourself. How much weight did you lose, and what was your inspiration to do that?
Well, I lost about 85 pounds, and it was just one of those things where like life catches up to you sometimes, and you get behind, and you're not really filling up to things, but like I said, I got three daughters. I have a lot to live for, and I wasn't in bad health, but I have a lot of stairs to climb to get up to that organ booth up at Enterprise Center, and it wasn't getting any easier, and I wasn't getting any younger. And I'd always been an athlete in school, and I always felt like I was athletic, and it was just a matter of doing it. And I put my mind to it. When I put my mind to something, I do it, and I got with a trainer and we worked out a lot in the gym, and I walked every day, and a lot of the weight I lost was just walking every day. I walked 3 to 5 miles every single day, and it was just being consistent, eating healthy, watching what I drink, those kinds of things, and I started to shed some weight. But I also wanted to stay in the gym, and I wanted to put on a little bit of muscle because I didn't want to just be some skinny guy. I wanted to have some shape to me too, and I wanted to be healthy. And you lose muscle as you get older, so I didn't want to lose that muscle.
As an old guy, I started sweating just watching you do some of those bleacher push-ups.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. Good stuff. So, do you have music available out there that people can purchase if they wanted to do so?
Yeah, so right now I only have I put out a baseball album 2 years ago on opening day 2023. It's called At the Pearly Gates of Baseball Heaven, and you can stream that on any platform, Amazon, Apple, you name it, Spotify. Um, and the reason I did baseball first, I also play at the Cardinals games at Busch Stadium, and the easiest for me is that like this is the exact same model organ that we have at Busch Stadium, so I didn't have to even go to Busch Stadium to record it. I could record it from home, so I made it really easy to record that album. I do get asked a lot about doing a blues or a hockey themed one, and it is definitely on the radar and something I really want to do. It's just a matter of carving time into it, out to do it, and getting in maybe at Enterprise Center and when there's not other events going on in the building and hammering those out. And but something that's on the horizon. But for sure, right now at the Pearly Gates of Baseball Heaven. If we have time, I have a funny story about how I got the name of that.
Please do.
Yeah, so I was playing, I think in 2013 for a Cardinals game, and we have the broadcast in the scoreboard room at Busch Stadium, and sometimes we can hear, but not always. But somebody texts me and goes, "Hey, Mike Shannon just talked about you on the radio," which he would do. He'd say, "Hey, Jeremy Boyer's playing the organ tonight," which was
Jeremy Boyer playing. Yeah.
yeah, which is very nice of him. He's a Hall of Fame Cardinal Hall of Famer and World Series champion. He didn't have to say anything, but he did, and that talked to Mike's character too, I think. But he was in typical Mike fashion. He goes, "It's Jeremy Boyer at the Pearly Gates tonight," and then there's dead silence for about 10 seconds. And all you can hear is his chuckle. And then John Rudy chimes in. He goes, "Well, I hope he's still with us." And then we start playing again, and Mike comes back in. He goes, "Hallelujah, there he is!" And so I got to be a Shannonism. So whenever I named the album, I asked the Cardinals if I could include that clip on the album, and I did have to get the express written permission of Major League Baseball LLC and the St. Louis Cardinals for that. But they gave me that permission, and so that at the Pearly Gates, and then I combined that with Baseball Heaven, which is Busch Stadium, and at the Pearly Gates of Baseball Heaven.
Perfect title.
Yeah.
Shamanism, Jeremy Boyer at the Pearly Gates. A tickle at the ivories. I wonder what he would have done with that one.
I know,
But
yeah.
rest in peace, Mike.
Yeah, great guy.
So you do have something out there to purchase. How would they get a hold of it?
Like I said, you can stream it, you can download it, Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, anywhere you can stream or download music, it's out there.
All the usual places.
Yep.
All right. So you've told some great stories. Have you got one you like to tell that we didn't touch on at
I
this
think
point?
my favorite I like to share is maybe my second season with the Blues in 2000, the beginning of 2008, 2009. I was coming into the building, and as I walked back, that back entrance to the security entrance at Enterprise Center, I see Wayne Gretzky getting out of his cab, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is Wayne Gretzky!" That's the great one. And so I come in, and like we're not really supposed to talk to players, and he was a coach at the time. He was the coach of the Arizona Coyotes.
Right.
And I'm like, but this is Wayne Gretzky, and I don't know if I'll ever see him again. I don't know. I wait at the end of the security tunnel for him to come in, and and I'm like, "Mr. Gretzky, could I get a picture with you?" And he's like, "Sure." And this kid, concession stand worker, is walking past. He's probably 18, 19 years old. I'm like, "Hey, would you take our picture together?" And I had to have a digital camera at the time. This is like before phones were like camera phones.
Yeah.
And I give it to him. He goes, "Yeah, sure, but you got to tell me who this is first." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" And Gretzky reaches out his hand and goes, "Hey, I'm Brett Hull. Nice to meet you." Didn't flinch, didn't even like bat an eye, and didn't correct himself either. So this whole time, this kid's thinking, That's cool. I met Brett Hall and walks on. No idea. But Gretzky was great. He didn't have to do that for me, and just shows you how great hockey players are, even the great one.
You bet. I've got a Wayne Gretzky story too. Have you heard it before?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'll have to tell you sometime. I'm not going to tell it now because it's embarrassing. Oh my goodness. It is it's a good story. I've told it on my podcast a couple of times, so I don't want to, bother people with it again, but next time we get together and maybe have a post-game beer, I'll get that one to you.
Sounds good.
So, Jeremy, thanks so much for doing this. So we appreciate it. And again, Jeremy argued with me before we did this that he's not a blues hockey legend. Well, I dispute that notion. He's already put in, 13, 14 years, maybe
19.
more.
This will be my
19. Okay. I'm underselling him already. 19 years, that would be right. 2008 to, yeah, okay. So anyway, Jeremy's, if not a legend already, he's working on it. So I'm proud to have him on this podcast, and especially featuring the legends of yesteryear who've been at the keyboard for the Blues. Thanks again, Jeremy. How about a little Blues Go Marching In as we wrap it up? Get any better than that. Feel like I'm right at home at the Enterprise Center. Jeremy, thanks again.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for being with me for another episode of the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends Podcast. We'll have another legend coming up soon, so stay tuned to our social media for news on who that legend might be. Visit PAGuyTom.com or BluesHockeyLegends.com and sign up for our Legends email notifications. The Legends podcast is also available on the Scoops Sports Network at scoopswithdannymac.com. Video of the podcast is published the Monday after the Friday release of the audio. As always, please like and share on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It all keeps the Legends podcast alive and well. Tom Calhoun here saying thanks for being a fan, and let's go Blues!